I got two KTUL Sports royalty members right beside me. Chris Lincoln here, Becky Dixon here. Guys, I'm first off thrilled you guys both were able to make it up here and do this. They don't want to hear me talk. They want to much rather hear you guys talk about your experience. Well, Chris, why don't we start with you and just if people don't know, how did you get your start here at News Channel 8?
The general manager asked me to come down for an audition. Walked in, the first thing he asked me is, tell us about your TV experience. So, Mr. Good Game, actually, this is my first time ever in a TV station. And went through the thing, the audition and stuff, and I was just amazed that years later I asked Tom, how did you hire me? Why? He goes, well, Chris, you had great enthusiasm, and you came so cheap. We just couldn't say no, but it turned to be the greatest move I ever made.
Becky, how did you end up coming here to KTUL?
I literally talked my way into a job. I came up here to Lookout Mountain. I had called Chris and I said, I have an idea I'd like to present to you. So he invited me to come up. Tom Goodgame was here. He was the general manager, as Chris mentioned at the time. And Mr. Lake was at the meeting, and Chris. And I had two things going for me. I had a minor in journalism from the University of Tulsa, but I also had a really great idea. I thought it was a great idea. Anyway,
right.
Chris had the most remarkable sports team of any station, I would say, in the country, probably at the time. We were KTUL at the time was the #1 ABC affiliate in the country in terms of market share. So he already had this great sports team, but he didn't have a woman on the team. So I thought, why not add a woman, and why not me?
Why not you?
The good news is nobody else had a woman on the sports team anyway, so this would really set KTUL apart. So I proposed doing 2 stories a week. I had a young daughter at home, so I wanted to be able to also spend time with her. But I proposed doing 2 stories a week, and I covered women's sports. And, that's what I told them. I said, more and more women and young girls are participating in sports now. And I also talked about participating in some of the sports I was covering.
Yeah.
So it worked out. I think it worked out pretty well for both of us. But we did have so much fun. I mean, Chris would just be typing on his typewriter, which he'll explain what a typewriter is later.
I'll need that.
Cracking jokes and telling funny stories. And we worked very hard, and I think we were a really good team, though, all of us.
Any of those stories for you, Becky, that stand out as one like, man, I'm really glad we got to do that, or I really enjoyed getting to do that? You've done so many, but I'm curious if there's one that maybe stands out over the rest.
When I was at Channel 8, as I said, I started out covering primarily women's sports and participating in recreational sports, girls' school sports. But at that time, one of the biggest sports stories in Tulsa was Nolan Richardson coming to the University of Tulsa and taking his team to the NIT tournament in New York City. For some reason, and I can't remember what it was, but Chris couldn't go to cover that story. So they sent me. Now, this was only about 6 months after I came to Channel 8. And so this was a really huge story. They were playing in Madison Square Garden. And Tulsa, I remember they called them, I think, the Cinderella team from Tulsa. They weren't expected to win, but they did.
Okay, you were talking about earlier, Chris, I want you to hit on this. People that are watching, really, you not struck a nerve, but some memories came in. 8's the place, right? That's a slogan that we just kind of throw around now, but back then it was a way of life, really, for us.
It elevated all of us, and that was the brilliance of Carl Bartholomew, Uncle Zeb, put that campaign together. Started with the news guys, then went on to that fun. The last thing I remember Tom Goodgame in my little audition thing, he asked me before I left to fly back to Columbia was, one last thing is, can you ride a horse? What? Is Oklahoma that far behind? Well, that's because the famous promo where Don Woods fell off his little pedal horse on the 8's the place promo, and they cut me into the shot there to clean that up and finish that off. But that was one thing I always remember with that. And the 8's the place promos were incredible. I mean, Carl had us doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Explosions going off back here, and then riding the Hallett racing and stuff, and on stagecoach, and we did it all. And he slapped that 8's the place on American Airlines planes, swimming pools, girls' bodies, everywhere. We had a great time with it.
We still get email requests almost weekly, sometimes daily, either from someone saying, I was on Uncle Zeb's show, do you have a copy of that? Gusty, they want a copy of Gusty, but then they also are remembering the 8's the place promos. Did you have any that stood out to you that you really enjoyed?
There was one that know that I went up in a hot air balloon. Do you remember that one, Chris?
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, we did things that normally we wouldn't
Yeah.
do, but when Carl presented it, it always sounded like so much fun that
Yeah.
we did it. Yes, that's the first and last time I've been in a hot air balloon.
Okay.
I hate heights.
Okay, I want to hit on something because we talked about you there wasn't a female on the market, right?
Right, or anywhere.
Anywhere,
Any market.
yeah. So how much of not a burden or maybe pressure did you feel kind of carrying that load or carrying that torch, if you will, of being the first woman, especially in this market, but anywhere really?
I really didn't think about being a pioneer for women at the time because I wasn't sure that any women would ever follow me. But, you know, today I'm so gratified to see that you can tune into almost any sporting event or sports program and see a woman on the broadcast team. So at the time, I don't think I realized that, you know, I was breaking ground. But it really is gratifying now because women are just, you know, they're
live with
at
the
any sports
PJ,
game.
women now become the minority.
Now, the last woman to win 4 individual gold medals at the swimming championships was
I also was the first woman to host a network sports show at ABC, and it was Wide World of Sports.
Yeah.
And I really didn't think about being a pioneer then. I was just overwhelmed to be a part of Wide World of Sports.
Sure.
Because it was such an iconic, legendary show, and I was going to be co-hosting with Frank Gifford.
Welcome to Wide World, Becky.
Frank, I grew up watching this show, so to be a part of it now, well, it really is a dream come true for me.
You know, that show was created before I got there, produced and hosted by Jim McKay and Roone Arledge, two legends in the field. So I think I was thinking more about that than being the first woman.
Sure. We haven't even hit on you going to the Middle East.
That's
and
right.
you made a lot of trips over there during your time with horse racing. Anything that stood out from those times?
I did, along with my 25 years of ESPN horse racing and ABC Sports. I was approached by the representative of Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the ruler of Dubai,
Good,
the largest owner.
very good, Chris.
And Becky had me
good.
practice that. Largest owner of thoroughbred racehorses in the world.
Okay.
He had a vision, as he says, a vision of doing a series like Grand Prix Auto Racing, international series. And asked if I'd be his global presenter. I had the best business card in my life. I was the global presenter for Intercontinental Television.
Oh, hold on.
When I flipped that baby out in Tokyo, they were on the ground bowing to me. So it was great.
Okay, yeah,
But I was kind of reluctant at first. It was back in 1999. Becky and I just gotten married.
Now there's another Becky in his life. We need to
Another
point that out.
I get confused
The
all the
important
time.
one.
I tell His Highness I appreciate the offer, but just got married. He said, I'll take care of everything. Don't worry about it. And we were at the time our struggling Wintercom company. We were like any young company. We were putting our production guys 3 or 4 in a room in a cheap hotel, doing spots to pay for something, trying to keep the doors open. Well, Becky arrives, and all of a sudden we have a first-class airfare, limousine waiting at the airport, suites and all over the world. And we would go to Dubai, and then Hong Kong, Singapore, Tokyo, all through Europe, back through the States, and twice a year we'd circle the globe. So just on American Airlines, Becky and I are 8.6 million miles.
Really?
Because he can go anywhere in the world you want to go. First class, where do you want to go? We always go, home. Go home is nice, yeah.
Yeah.
One of Becky's favorite stories is we do a telecast at Royal Ascot, and Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth would be there and stuff. She, of course, races horses and very involved in the program there and stuff. And we're at our winner's enclosure, and right past it, here comes Her Majesty with her little entourage, heading down to see one of our horses being saddled. And this started first. We have a meeting every morning at Royal Ascot with Lord Hartington, who is her Queen's royal representative to Ascot, and he'd have all these rules set down. I never went to the meeting because I cared less, and Father wrote. Becky would come back to the big rule, honey: do not touch the Queen. Just don't touch her no matter what.
Seems like a safe
Yeah.
rule.
So she's walking by, and she kind of is a little person. She turns, kind of a little wave at me. So I go, "Hello, Queen!" And poor Becky's bowing and curtsying, and just an Oklahoman.
Just trying to be polite, yeah. Just trying to
Exactly,
make it,
yeah.
that's good. You mentioned Frank Gifford. I know a lot of people
Yeah,
know that
that's
name,
great.
obviously. Any
Sure.
stories that come to mind about Frank?
Frank was the kindest, one of the most compassionate men I've ever met. And everywhere we went, he was like a rock star. You know, people wanted to meet him or
Right.
have their picture taken with him, and he complied with every request. And he always wanted to make sure everyone around him, me included, were comfortable because, you know, I was the new kid on the block. I had only been at ABC Sports 3 months before
Oh,
I
wow.
received
Yeah.
the Wide World of Sports assignment.
Wow.
And I remember that first day in the studio, he kept saying, "Are you okay? You know, do you have any questions? You need anything?" One funny story, a couple of weeks before we started Wide World, Kathy Lee, his wife, was on the show, Regis and Kathy Lee, many will remember
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And I just happened to be in New York in my hotel room watching the show, and Regis held up my photo, which was on the cover of USA Today sports section that week, and he said, look, there's a new woman in Frank Gifford's life. And Kathy Lee she was just newly married, so she wasn't really ready to hear anything like that. So I got an immediate call from Frank. He said, Becky, I want to take you and Kathy to lunch together so she can meet you and you guys will be comfortable with each other. But he was the greatest.
A couple more here, and we'll start with you, Becky, and then Chris, you can chime in. How much has this place, this station, this on top of the hill, how much has it changed since you were here, and in what ways maybe is it similar, if you will?
The layout looks so similar. I know the studio was in that room, in there, right?
That's right.
Yes, but I was just filled as I drove up here today with so many memories, and it's just so wonderful to be back here and to see Chris here. And I think 8's still the place, and maybe always will be. So.
Yeah.
I don't see. I mean, you still deliver a wonderful product. You know, I always enjoy watching your sportscast,
and that means a lot.
Yeah, I think I just see more similarities than I do differences. What about you, Chris?
No.
You see differences?
Of course he does.
How much time do you get for sports?
That's true.
Okay. Now, I knew he would bring that up.
I get 2.5 minutes at 6. I'm hoping the people that are in charge of the shows here are watching 2.5 minutes at 6. And 2 minutes at 10. So.
And I just stopped and talked to the weather guys. Said, how much time do you need to say hot? Just get on to sports here. But
Chris has been talking about this issue his entire life, ever since I met him. How much time he gets?
He will still text me about that. He's like, and when it's hot out, he'll say, "How much time do they need to say it's hot?" That's what he says, and I can hear them laughing. They're back there in the weather center laughing right now. So
you're doing a great job, TJ.
And
yes, you are.
I appreciate that.
And I'd like to return to what it was. 8's the place. And they've got some people here now changing things, getting things going again. So you guys hang in there with us because it's still 8's the place, and did so much for both Becky and me. Obviously, we wouldn't have had a careers without KTUL.
Like I've mentioned, I was able to work with some of the most legendary sportscasters in the country: Frank Gifford, Jim McKay, Keith Jackson, Al Michaels. I would put this guy up there on the same list with any of them.
That's awesome.
And I tell you, Becky did so much for us here, and I convinced Tom we need this lady on the air. She did a fabulous job here, and all I say is, well, she went on to ABC Wide World of Sports. So again, congrats to you, TJ, and Channel 8 Sports.
Oh, Chris, appreciate you.
Again, more time for sports. That should be the mantra at Channel 8.
But 8's still the place.
8's still the place.
8 is still the place, especially if we get more time for sports.
Yes.
I appreciate you guys joining. Thank you guys for watching.